What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Dawkins on Duke. This time we've got my guy, Kenny Dennard. Interesting cat, man. He's a super fun conversation, so we hope you enjoy it. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe. Reach out to us on Twitter at the Field of 68, at Dre_Dawkins. Let us know who you want to hear from next, and let us know if you're enjoying it and having fun. Also, if you don't know, we have a YouTube channel as well called the Field of 68, where we post exclusive content and clips from these podcasts if you want to check that out as well. But yeah, without further ado, here's my guy, Kenny Dennard. Hope you enjoy. All right, welcome back, everybody. This week we got my guy, Kenny Dennard. What's going on, man? Thanks for coming on.
Another day in paradise.
I hear you.
Here in South Texas.
All right, so we start the podcast off the same way every week. We got to get your what was your welcome to Duke moment?
My welcome to Duke moment. Well, I guess that means I have to go back 40 plus years to remember that, right?
A couple years.
Well, yeah. A couple of decades, multiple decades. No, I was recruited by Duke, and I got recruited out of high school. My junior year, I went to 5-star camp, and Bob Wenzel was the assistant coach at Duke. Mm-hmm. Called my mom on Wednesday of 5-star camp that summer before my senior year. So that's really the first welcome, but got recruited by 150 schools and had a bunch of scholarship offers, visited a bunch of schools. And when I visited Duke, I don't know, maybe it was the Gothic architecture, but it was it was there. And then all the team and this is before Gene Banks was known to be coming, but it just seemed like the place for me. And the other places were good. I visited tons of other places, but Duke was it. And I believed in my gut, and it paid off.
Yeah.
But my senior year in high school, I committed. I was one of the first guys to ever commit early. This is like back in November of 76. Mm-hmm. So before my senior games started, I committed to Duke. And I said, because Bill Foster wanted a commitment because he had a bunch of people he was recruiting for that one spot. And I said, well, count me in. And so I went down to every game I could. So our games in high school were Friday afternoon or Friday night. So after the game, I just drive straight down to Duke Friday night, enjoy the Friday night campus life, stay in Mark Crow's room, party all weekend, go to the game. And as a senior, so I got a really full year of social etiquette. And this is the 70s, so it was a little different than it. Yeah. It was kind of a wild time. But so when I got to Duke that summer of 77, I'd already knew where everything was.
Yeah.
I was very confident. And Gene showed up that summer, and that's when the magic began.
Mm-hmm. Where'd you go to high school?
Well, it's up in Walnut Cove, North Carolina. I lived in a county that had like 6 little towns. King has a population of like 1,145, and it still to this day still has 1,145.
Oh, wow.
How's that happen? Because every time a baby's born, a man leaves town. So, but no, all these little schools fed into the centralized southern part of this. If you draw squares, put a mountain right through it, where Sartown Mountain is. South Stokes was down here, and North Stokes was up there. So we went to South Stokes High School.
Okay.
And we had a pretty good team. We had some fun. We made it to the state semis and lost it. Won the consolation. We came in third my senior year.
Yeah, not bad. So were you a Duke fan, or did they just come on your radar when they started to recruit you?
No, I was a Wake Forest fan. I grew up about 3 miles from Wake Forest University, and my best friend was his dad was the dean of men. So we went to run around the campus all the time. That was back in the early 70s. So I had a great time. Loved Wake. All my friends were Carolina fans. Back then, Carolina's the big draw. Never really thought about Duke until I went to the Wake Forest basketball camp my 10th grade year, and I met Mark Crow, who was doing a station. And you know how they do stations
Mm-hmm.
At the basketball camps, they teach you about the crossover dribble or how to do a layup or a jump shot. Well, Crowbar was showing the pick and roll. So he sat us all down. All these other stations around the gym were doing all these running and stuff. We sat down, and Crowbar goes, okay, here's how you master the pick and roll. First, you go like this, and then you roll. For those of you who don't see that, that's putting my finger in my nose, pulling the booger out and rolling it. Looks like plastic, feels like rubber, right? So that was how I followed Mark after that.
Yeah.
The next couple of years. And then when I got recruited by them, he became my guy who took me around and really took me under his wing. He was my Duke daddy.
Yeah. So what was recruiting like for you back then? Obviously prior to cell phones and texting and things like that. How did all those schools, reach out to you and recruit you and try to get you to come to their campus?
Well, most of them had secretaries that all day had these IBM Select typewriters that had they had these font balls that were like, I don't know, you probably don't even know what a typewriter is, but they would type these letters, the form letters, and they'd send them out, and it would say, "Dear so-and-so, dear Kenny, we've heard from others that you're a good player, blah, blah, blah." So that you get all these form letters. And then one time I did the count. I kept that box of letters for years. I had 6 of the same letter from Louisville, from Denny Crum. And the only difference was several times they changed the font ball. So instead of Times Roman, it was like Courier or Helvetica or whatever. It was so funny. But the only way the recruiting was big on Northeastern players because of Howard Garfinkel's 5-star camp. That was the original camp for high school players. If you got invited to 5-star, then you were a D1 category recruit. And I got invited to 5-star. Thank goodness. I'm the first guy in 1976 that ever made the all-star team south of the Mason-Dixon line. So from below DC, nobody had ever made the all-star team. And they only had one camp, one location back then up in the Pocono Mountains. So they've obviously camps today are everywhere. AAU is everywhere. Sure. We didn't have any of that. So I was lucky to get the 5-star. And that's where it's my Schwab's drugstore, counter where I was discovered, if you want to think of it like old Hollywood movie stuff. But so that we didn't have all the, coaches would call you, they'd come to games and stuff. But I really committed before any of that, ugly stuff where they get crazy at you. Have you had Gene on yet?
No, I need to get Gene on.
You got to get Gene. Gene's got some great recruiting stories because he waited till April.
So everybody was after him.
Oh my God, everybody. He's got the best story about how Coach Foster recruited him. I can't tell it because he does it great. Yeah,
we'll have to get Gene on for sure. So when you got there, what was Duke like? And obviously, I mean, even since I've graduated, it's changed a lot. What was it like then? And for you going back now, like, do you see it as just like a completely different campus?
Oh, well, no, I mean, it's Duke.
Yeah.
The thing about Duke is it has a core, that main quad. I mean, there's thousands of more buildings there than used to be when I was there. But when I got to Duke, really the environment was a different world. It was right after the end of the Vietnam War and right before the Reagan era of conservatism. So it's kind of a real golden era of liberalism and free love and drugs and rock and roll and all that. But Bill Foster had come in, and the first 3 years he was there, he had recruited Jim Spanarkel, and his first year, it wasn't his first year, but Jim Spanarkel and Mike Jaminski were rookies of the year. So he was building something. But for 4 years, really, prior to me getting to Duke, me and Gene, Duke had been in last place and had lost the first game of the ACC tournament every year for 4 straight years. So even Coach Foster had 2 of those. He was 2 years before, and then Gene and I came in and we kind of, captured lightning in a bottle in '78. But nobody around Durham. You go around the country now and there's Duke stuff.
Yeah.
If you go to Hell Carolina, go to Hell stuff. But there's Duke stuff everywhere. You couldn't, when you walked off campus, east or west, you didn't see Duke shirts, Duke hats, Duke anything. It was all UNC or NC State. Yeah. NC State had won a national championship in '74. And so this was just a few years removed from that. So there was nothing, it was in fact, there's some guys at Moxie Pictures that are doing a documentary on our '78 team, because we're, really the of modern Duke basketball after 12 years of, desert.
Yeah.
Our team went from 0 to 60 in 2 nanoseconds by going to the finals and almost upsetting Kentucky. So everything started to change then.
Yeah.
Recruiting started, and then of course we started to build momentum. There wasn't national TV was non-existent. I remember my freshman year that we lost in the finals. We were on national TV 4 times, and that was the ACC tournament championship. First time it had ever been nationally televised, and it was on ABC Wild World of Sports.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it wasn't March Madness back then. NBC had it, and so it was all regional games until you get to the regional finals. Then that's a national game, and then semifinal, final game. So we were on national TV 4 times, but you had 40 million people watching because of that. There were only 3 channels. You didn't have all these choices.
Right.
So we got a lot of exposure. We were preseason #1 the next year, and we had a disappointing year. We got upset in the first round. The next year we were back on top. We made it all the way to the regional finals and got beat by Purdue in the regional finals. And then that's when, Bill Foster left and some guy from the Army showed up.
Yeah. Some guy named Mike King.
That's right.
So what was Cameron like? Obviously we know what Cameron is like nowadays with the crazies and everything. What was it like then when you first got there?
It was crazy, but it was different. It was a different crazy. It was a much more lewd and crude. I mean, we had, it wasn't the camping, the tenting or anything, but there were, we had big crowds because we had Gene. Gene was Zion, of that era. He was LeBron of that era. He sold out everywhere we went. And so we had a great crowd, and the crazies, a couple times I remember, in fact, in one of our yearbooks, they showed one of the fans with a stick, and it had a little thing. It was a chicken, those rubber chickens, and he had a referee outfit on, and he was hanging him by the neck. He was dangling it in front. Can you imagine doing that now?
No, I don't think that's gonna fly nowadays.
You're out of here.
Yeah.
And then another year we played in Southern Cal, which they had beaten us at Southern Cal my freshman year. And it was a home and home, so they came to Durham, and boy, everybody was upset because we got kind of gypped out of that game at the end with the officials and no calls and stuff like that. Blah blah. But the next year, our fans, we had no idea. We come out on the court, how you go through the pregame stuff. You come out 20 minutes ahead, you're working on stuff, then you go in, and then you come back out. And so right when we're coming out for layup lines, kind of after. See, we didn't used to be out there during the national anthem. That wasn't something that we did. So we come out after the national anthem, and we're starting our layup. And when Southern Cal came out right before the game, they got pelted with 1,000+ condoms. Some of them from the Trojans, because they're the Trojans. Some of them were in the pack. Some of them were in the real, the little pack. Some of them were blown up. Fortunately, none of them had any incendiary devices or any kind of liquids. Yeah. But they were it just got. So that's kind of how the crazies were. They weren't called Cameron crazies. That was something that ESPN and Dick Vitale and all those guys kind of created that for their trying to get their ratings up. Yeah,
but they were clearly still crazy.
Yeah, and they made up shit on the fly. They didn't have like a texted or emailed list of cheers.
Yeah. Like they do now.
Right. But still, I don't begrudge them. We didn't have that. So, but our guys were pretty creative, and many of them had their mini bottles in their socks. There was no security back then.
Yeah, that's funny. So you mentioned Bill Foster, who you played for your first 3 years there, coach before coach. What was playing for Bill like?
Bill was one of those guys who he challenged you, and he respected you, and he gave us all. We were an eclectic group of guys.
Yeah,
came from all over the country, and he really, we didn't have curfew. We didn't have any restrictions like that. He trusted us as men, and if he hears we got out of line, he brings us in the office and he says, explain yourself, and then you don't do it again. Yeah,
right.
But nobody really got in any, quote unquote, Anthony Mason trouble type stuff. In those days. But the respect was what he gave us, and every one of us loved playing together. It was it's an overused term now. You got to love your teammates, and these guys really love each other. Well, we did before that was kind of cool. I mean, and it was just a fantastic environment that was freshman year. Second year, he got a little paranoid because of all the success we had. Preseason number 1, cover of Sports Illustrated, all the pressure and stuff. And he changed some, which changed us some because we didn't know. They'd been last place for 4 straight years. We have a great year, and all of a sudden everybody wants a piece of us. So we had I would say I had a sophomore slump. I think Gene would say he had a sophomore slump, but the whole team slumped, and we got knocked out early of the NCAA tournament. But we came back, we learned from that. But the problem why Bill left and why you're sitting where you are is because of the clash between Tom Butters and Bill Foster. There was a real clash. And so Bill just said, fuck it, I'm leaving. So he took the job for South Carolina for money and other things. And that left, us, me and Gene and Vince Taylor kind of like, well, we got one more. Well, Vince had 2 more years, but so Coach K came in and he kind of put up with us, but we weren't his players. But the nice thing is how he respected us. We did have a curfew, but he wasn't a hard ass about it. And we respected him. We didn't get in any trouble. But Coach Foster was really great, but he, the pressure of that much success out of nowhere is one of those cautionary tales that people learn from, that they can say, look what happened to that team. They didn't handle it well. But that's how, you're too young to remember, but maybe some of your people that are watching or listening can, One-on-One with Robbie Benson was a big basketball movie in the 70s. And it talked about, it's kind of like the Blue Chips of the 80s. With Nick Nolte. Basketball movies that show how the underbelly of the game can be. The nice thing about Duke is always run a very clean program. There's the Coach Foster was all about service. He wanted us to give back to the community. We had to be in practice a half an hour early because we had to and taped and ready to go. And when we walked out after that first year, we had, I don't know how many basketballs and posters. We had to sign them before we could go stretch. Okay, so it was like he made us do that. We don't naturally want to do that. No. But he wanted us to give back. He had a real service mentality and wanted to be that way for fans and build the program.
So you guys' class is the last class to go through a coaching change at Duke. So what was that like going into your senior year with a new, relatively unknown coach coming in?
No, it was what you might think. It was where Gene and I both had to adjust, but probably it wasn't just the coaches. It was what happened to recruiting. We didn't have, when Bill left, he announced he was leaving after we won the ACC tournament in 80. And so we were lame duck through the NCAA tournament. So
Yeah.
therefore, there's no recruits coming. They don't
Mhm.
know, they're going to make a commitment to another big school. And so we lost the momentum on recruiting. So we didn't have much compared. In 80-81 season, if you go back and look at the household names of ACC basketball, that year, that was a star-studded year, a star-studded era. But with Jaminski leaving, Bender gone, me, Vince, and Gene were there, and we hung in there. We won a few games. We beat Carolina on our senior day with Gene's historic shot, and but it wasn't a bad transition. Coach K he wasn't Coach K back then. He was the chef. He was the chef.
Okay.
If you ever see our senior year, that first senior dinner where you do all the videos, we had it. Well, the actual program has a picture of him in a chef hat.
Okay.
I'll email that to you if you.
Yeah, I gotta see that.
And then the inside, you open it up, it's like a menu, and so like the award, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's on my Facebook, but I'll send you copies of the pages. But he was the chef, and he definitely, I think he likes the hard K and not the soft K.
Yeah, for sure. So having gone through that year with him being a young coach, and then that was obviously your senior year, what were your impressions as you were leaving? And obviously no one sees this level of success coming, but did you think he had success coming in his future?
Oh, nobody could predict that. In fact, Valvano came in that same year, 80-81. So nobody could predict that for sure. And then, the thing about that era is you had time. I mean, he needed time to get his players to play his style.
Right.
We kind of went through, he put up with us, and when you do motion offense and man-to-man, there's not a whole lot of coaching involved.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of how much talent you have and who can execute on those, because it's more of an individual style play.
Right.
But there was, fast forward, it wasn't something to where anybody expected great things. In fact, Gene and I went to the pros. In fact, the little T-shirt, I should have worn my T-shirt today. That it has a picture of me and Gene, and I'm shooting gang signs, and Gene's looking like the man that he is, just so like chiseled out of stone. And I say, Coach K's first one and dones, technically speaking.
Yeah.
Because we played for him one year. We went to the pros, technically speaking, but nobody knew it. So we're in the pros, and we're hopeful that, the guys he brought in, Jay Bryan, Danny Mahar, that crowd, great guys, talented, but not. The next year he brought in Johnny Dawkins, Jay Billis, and Mark Allery, and David Henderson. So and what's the guy? Not Hugh Jackman, Bill Jackman, who transferred later to Nebraska. But it took him a couple years to get the recruiting in.
Yeah.
And Mark Allery told me one time that made me feel so good is when Coach K came to visit him in Arizona. He didn't know anything about Coach K, but he remembered our team in '78 when he was a kid. Mm-hmm. So he said, well, they can get on national TV and they can be good. Yeah. And then Coach K, silver-tongued devil that he is in the living room back those days. But it took a couple years. I remember I played with Phil Ford, and I played with Hawkeye Whitney on the Kansas City Kings, and we were in DC or somewhere on a road trip. And this is how old I am. Back in the day, there was only one newspaper in the whole country that had current scores, and that was USA Today, because they had a network of satellites and they could print regionally. Whereas if you're on the East Coast and you get the Washington Post or New York Times or your local newspaper, you won't have the scores from last night from the West Coast or anything, because it'd be delayed a day. Right. And there was definitely no thought of. Right. So the USA Today was our go-to every day. We'd be reading in the bus or on the plane. We'd be checking out scores. And one day Phil Ford goes, "Damn, dog, what's up at Duke?" I said, "What do you mean?" "Y'all lost to Wagner last night." "What the Wagner?" And then another time on the bus, Hawkeye goes, "Yo, dog, hate to pile on, man. Y'all just lost to Appalachian State. Thank God there wasn't cable back then, right?"
Yeah.
But no, after a couple of years, though, when he got his team in there, and obviously the rest is history.
Mm-hmm.
The story that Coach K told at his Hall of Fame induction at Duke about how he walked into Butter's office after year 3.
Yep.
And lost to 40 to Virginia in the ACC tournament. He thought he was getting fired.
Mm-hmm.
It was only making $40,000 a year back then. So, Tom Butter shoves a piece of paper over to him that he thinks, "Oh, I'm gonna have to sign this." Oh, that's an extension. So, Butters didn't do right by Bill Foster, but he certainly did right by Coach K.
Yeah, for sure.
Basically indicating that I hired you. If I don't give you some kind of encouragement, they're going to fire me because I hired you. That's
right,
kind of the
right.
mentality.
Yep.
Tom was a very masterful, strategic thinker when it comes to covering his own ass. Okay. God bless him.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace.
Yeah, for sure. So you were co-captain with Gene. We talked about him a few times, and getting to know him now after a few K academies, I know how he is now. One of the most fun guys on the planet. Was he about the same in college?
He is. He reminds, Gene is like, what you see is what you get, and it's been that way forever. Reminds me of Charles Barkley or Muhammad Ali.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys that I've met in my life that are they are who they are, and they've never been anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And Gene is one of the special people on this planet, and I was just so lucky to be able to spend 4 years with him and then know him. And our team, that 78 team, is still very close. In fact, we got news today. One of our coaches is really ill. So one of our assistants, Luke Getz, and we send prayers out to him. So we stick together.
Yeah.
We go through things together as a team. That's what teams do. I mean, I'm sure your teams you stay close with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great thing about Duke. It's not who you played for or who your coach was, even though for individual teams it is, but the brotherhood, the branding of that was genius.
Yeah.
I sometimes overly go out of my way to tell people of the brotherhood that played for Coach K, I'm the oldest. I'm the OG, original.
Yeah, for sure.
OG.
Definitely. Yeah. OG,
I'm older
OG.
in Gene, I'm older in Suds, and G-Man never played for Coach K. So of all the Duke guys out there, here's your granddaddy right here, or great granddaddy.
Yeah. So you leave Duke, and then you played pro basketball. What was pro basketball life like then? It's obviously a little bit different nowadays. You got the private planes and things and such. A
little. It was a lot different. There were 23 teams. Okay, there weren't 30. We didn't have private planes. We flew commercial.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of opportunities for mischief.
Yeah.
And everybody had their opportunities to partake in that. The game itself was not as good. The game itself it's not because of the mischief or, we had some real drug related issues in the early 80s.
Yeah.
If you remember John Lucas, and he came out and got into recovery. You had Len Bias, who never made it to the league.
Yeah.
I mean, cocaine was a big problem when I was in the league. But anyway, not to dwell on that, but the league it was more of a run and gun league. I mean, I played in the highest scoring game in NBA history to this day.
Oh, really?
I bet you can't even guess the score or get close.
164, 158. Oh, I'm low?
186, 184.
Whoo, good gracious. In regulation?
Yeah, no, not regulation. Regulation was 145 each.
Okay.
And we had 3 overtimes that went to 186 to 184. In fact,
good gracious.
Yeah, it's and I played in the second highest game. Actually, I think it was against Gene a few weeks later. I've got all the stats on I've posted that stuff when people send it to me. Hey, did you know this? And I knew about the 186, 184 was the highest scoring game ever. But the second or third one, I didn't realize. but that was just the way, when I played with Doug Moe at Denver, our motto was first team to 150 wins. Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of Doug. And I said, Doug, why did you draft for me? I'm a defensive specialist. He goes, Coach Smith asked me to draft. I mean, not draft me. He traded for me. Dean Smith asked, he played for Dean, and him and Dean were close. He said, Dean told me to trade for you. He wanted to help you out. And he did. Literally,
Yeah.
Dean did do that.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Later in life, Dean Smith was my first reference on my first resume.
Oh,
he was so, yeah.
That's awesome.
He was,
so how long did you play, and then why'd you decide to stop playing?
Oh, I didn't stop. I didn't decide. The league decided. It was no retirement.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough I was a 4th round pick back then, which was like, I don't know, it would have been 3rd round today. But point being, I was just lucky to get there. I had testicular cancer in my 2nd year, right before the season, and I went through radiation and surgery. So that changed things. That year, because I had a chance to start and went in and had surgery right before the season started, and came back and played another. I had to sue the Kings. It's a long, ugly, sordid underbelly story. I had to sue the Kings because they didn't pay me while I was out getting treatment.
Yeah.
Came back, played well, got asked to be traded because I was having to sue them because they weren't paying me. Got over to Denver, had a great year in Denver, but after 3 years on my contract, and none of them are guaranteed, I had to make the team every year. I had this lawsuit out with the NBA and the Players Association, one backing me because there were a bunch of, they were just not good people.
Yeah.
They didn't give a shit about some guy making, 60, 70 grand a year,
right,
down at the low end of total poll. And this was before there was a lot of opportunity to get a momentum of support.
Yeah.
So I finally got a trial or an arbitration, and went in and won my arbitration. They had to pay me money, but I would never work in this league again.
Yeah.
It was basically your Hollywood scene.
Yeah.
And so I never got invited to any other camp. So I went to Italy and played played a few months, and I didn't like that.
Yeah.
I didn't. It just wasn't the kind of basketball that I wanted to play. It wasn't the kind of life I wanted to live. So I came back and, went back to school and graduated because I didn't finish when I had left. So I tell people, it took me 9 years to get out of Duke.
So when you stopped playing, you mentioned you went back to school. Did you know what direction you wanted to go in post basketball, or were you still figuring that out?
Well, when I came to Duke, I had no idea I'd start, be the 15th. I'm 15th or 16th in minutes played in Duke history.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was going to happen. I came to Duke because of really one chance to get a great education. I was going to do 3 years of undergrad and a 4-year JD MBA program. And they had customized, it was something that was customized for me before they didn't even have the, what do you call that? The business school over there, Fuqua. That hadn't even been built yet, So that's why I went there. I was really good student, great SATs, all that stuff. But after that 1 year where we had so much success, my head went.
Yeah.
And I just did enough to stay eligible. And I said, let's see how this plays out, this basketball thing. And I can always go back to school.
Right.
So I felt like I had a level of intellect that people were embarrassed for me because I wasn't living up to my potential. But I had other things to do while I was young, dumb, and full of cum. That's all I cared about, right? I mean, play basketball, have college, and let's move on, okay? Yeah. And in the pros, I had to go through some real business aspects of what college sports don't put you in front of. I mean, sure, you can have rough times, people transfer, but we're talking about, making money and having to go to court and all that stuff. So I got a real fast education on real life and how, you have to work hard to sustain some sort of right to ask for something or to earn something. You just can't expect it to be given to you. So I had that knock early. And then went into business after I got out of school. I did not want to go to law school then. I did not want to go get my MBA. But so I had some entrepreneurial things that I messed around with and was a total failure, but learned a lot. And then fell into this business of investor relations in 1989. So I've been in this business field. I worked for multiple companies, three companies. And then when I got to Texas, I started my own firm back in 97. So I've had my own firm for 24 years now. Somebody says, what do you do? I said, I like to tell other people what to do. That's what I do.
So do you have any advice for younger guys, maybe in college now, about how to get themselves ready for when the ball stops bouncing? Because, in college, we all feel like, we'll just play forever and make a bunch of money and everything will be fine. But as we have all found out, the ball eventually stops bouncing. So, do you have any advice for any young guys coming up going through that now?
I do. And it has to do with passion. If basketball is your passion, that's fantastic. But you can be passionate about more than one thing. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of passion about, how things work. It's not like I'm an engineer, but my dad was an electrical engineer, but I want to know how things work. Mm-hmm. I was a history major, and I love how you look at how past actions lead to current results. Have something that's outside of basketball that you're as passionate about, and you have to have an intellectual curiosity to do that. You just can't sit around and have this monolithic thought. So it's not what to do, it's opening your mind up to what do you like to do, and how can that, I think most people that have been successful or have some levels of success, they'll always say, if you don't like it, you're not going to be successful. If you're not having fun, if you're not enjoying it, to put in the hours. I mean, I can't tell you how many hours and hours. I mean, just the other night, I did an all-nighter with a client. And I'm 62 years old. What am I doing all night? Because it's part of I still have passion for what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that's whatever it is, whether it's music, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales, whether it's medicine, whether it's community work, civic work, volunteer work. Money's not everything. I mean, it certainly helps to pay the bills.
Yeah.
But money doesn't find you happiness. Money can buy you things that will make you happier, but it's not about just making money. And the friends that I've had in my past that have kind of fallen by the wayside, that have been athletic, either football, basketball, and I didn't know many baseball players, but most of my football and basketball friends that thought money was the object have had pretty miserable lives.
Yeah.
And I don't talk to them much.
Yeah. So you're one of the mainstays at K Academy, one of the guys that you can pretty much count on is going to be there every year. What brings you back to K Academy every year?
Oh, well, to see, it's like a fountain of youth.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I remember when you were a kid at school, but look at you now. I still see you hitting that shot, that last second shot.
Yeah.
And I get to see all these guys that I get to watch, because the players that have made it to coaches at the K Academy, are coming back because they're not assholes. Mm-hmm. K Academy Coach K doesn't suffer assholes. He just says, he won't invite them.
Exactly.
And we've had assholes in our program, but the good guys that like to give back and love to be around the K Academy campers, which are all very successful in life. Mm-hmm. But they're there to have camaraderie, to have fun. And in my life, it's like a little vacation. I mean, a lot of times I still have to work, I have to write press releases or do something in the room. But it's a nice 5 days of just really being in a time machine, where I get to see old friends and the brotherhood gets to commune. And we get to yell at these fucking hedge fund guys who are
Yeah.
$1 billion guys. You got to rebound. You get that rebound. And they love it. They love it.
Man,
they come for that.
They eat it up,
love
man. They eat it up.
Watching Gene. I remember when you guys were coaching one time. Gene just he lost his voice like on the second day.
Yeah.
He was yelling so loud.
Yeah. So
I hope we have it again this summer.
I
don't know because I need to get that vaccine in my veins.
Yeah.
I'm a high risk.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got to talk about the GTHC gear. How did that come about? For those listening who don't know what GTHC stands for, it stands for Go to Hell, Carolina. Yeah. So and if you're watching, he's got the bandana on for you. How'd that come about?
Well, the Go to Hell, Carolina, Go to Hell cheer has been in Cameron forever.
Yeah.
And so a buddy of mine, who's 10 years younger than me, who I met later in life. I met him after the 2010 games. Remember when Duke played in Houston before they went to Indy to win the 2010 championship?
Yep.
Well, I met this guy named Holt Gardner, and he was just this character, and he was crazy. And I went out to LA because he was kind of a Hollywood scumbag who I thought would be fun to play with.
Mm-hmm.
And he was around kind of that hot. He lived on the same floor with Canoe Reeves up on the top of a penthouse. Anyway, Holt's a crazy guy, wonderful guy. And I got out there. He picked me up in his Porsche, and it had the license tags, GTHCGTH. I said, "Hey, man, how'd you get that?" He goes, "Well, you got to tell the DMV, but don't tell them what it means because they don't like that stuff."
Yeah.
So I went back, and this is 2011, I guess, 2010. And I made the application, and they said, "Well, what does this mean?" And I said, it's a Dr. Seuss thing. Get that hat, cat. Get that hat. Approved.
Yeah.
So I just started sharing it on social media. A number of my friends from Duke around the country started getting them. And then it really broke open. It was kind of a little secret club for a while. And we had about 20 states that had these, because you can only have one of these license tags in every state. You can have variations of the theme, but So anyway, a reporter from the Wall Street Journal called me, and he was a Duke guy. He's a sports reporter. He's really smart. He wrote a great article the other day. I mean, he writes articles all the time, but he's published all the time in the Wall Street Journal for sports things. Andrew Beaton. And I said, "What can I do for you?" I talked to a lot of journalists, talked to a lot of Wall Street Journal journalists on the business side with my clients. He goes, "No, we don't want to talk. I want to talk about your license tags." And I said, "What?" He said, "No, I want to do a story on them for the Wall Street Journal. You gotta be kidding me." So we went through the process, and then a couple of weeks later, he goes, "Hey, my editor said I can print it. It may be only on the website, but who knows? They make the paper." So they sent a photographer over, took some pictures. They got pictures from other people, and so he lets me know Thursday night before I'm flying back Friday for Grayson's senior game.
Yeah.
Duke Carolina game. And he says, "Hey, we made it, and we made the paper." I said, "You're kidding me." So he sent me the web link, which I sent out to my 3,000 or 4,000 closest friends on my opt-in email list. And the next day, when I get up and I'm on a plane from 6:00 in Houston, I get to Raleigh about 8:30. My phone's got 47 messages. And they're going, "Dog, you're on the front page of the Wall Street Journal." It made the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Okay, and it had my license tag, and it had the picture of me with the truck, with the tag. And so Holt, who's my buddy, he got mentioned in it. In the website, his picture was on there, but not on the paper. So anyway, we started getting all these calls, and Holt goes, "Hey, man, people are asking, where can we buy hats? Where can we buy shirts? Where can we buy stuff?" And I said, "Well, I've done a lot of patent and trademark work in my past." So I went online while I was at Duke. Well, first of all, before I left the airport at Friday morning, I bought every Wall Street Journal in the Raleigh Drama.
Yeah.
And was handing them out. I was handing them out to people at the Washington Duke that whole day. It was so fun. It was so much fun. Because have you ever read the article?
No, I haven't. I need to check it out.
I'll send it to you. No,
Yeah.
Anyway, so I got online once I was back at Washington Duke and went on the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office website. I did a search. Nobody had it. GTHCGTH as a patent or a trademark. So I immediately filed, paid the money, put all the stuff in, and it takes about 1.5 years to get the registered trademark.
Mm-hmm.
But immediately we started finding sources for, how to source the products, get up a website. If you've been to the website, GTHCGTH.com.
Duke fans, if you're listening,
click on the store button up on the right.
Yeah, that's where you can get your GTHC gear.
That's right. And you can also go to the history page or the really history of it. And the interesting part about, the Dukes, if you're familiar with the Duke family.
Yeah.
They were a bunch of redneck, dirt under their fingernails, robber barons that dominated the tobacco market.
Yep.
So one of the things that they did to enhance their standing in the communities that they lived is they married into the Biddle family. If you're familiar with the Mayflower Biddles that settled in Philadelphia, they went bankrupt in the late 1800s due to that crash. The Dukes were multi-gazillionaires and they had no social standing, so they married them. So they got the immediate society, right?
Yep.
Welcome to Philly, welcome to New York. The Dukes were in. One of my best friends is St. George Biddle Duke, who's just a kick-ass cowboy out in Wyoming. But they had this whole thing planned on how to build a brand. And then George, George Washington is sitting at over on East Campus, the dad, and then Buck Duke, who's the one who really, Buchanan Duke's the one who really had the killer J.R. Ewing type of tenacity to build and create. And, he took advantage of a few people too, but that's what robber barons did. So anyway, in 1905 or whatever year it was, the story is on the website. I'm just summarizing it, but I took it from a reliable source in the Duke family that the patriarch of the Dukes on his deathbed, his last words were, "Go to hell, Carolina, go to hell." And that was in 1905 or something, right?
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Now that Duke hasn't even, they hated Carolina because they were the elitists.
Right.
They've been the universities, and I think it's the oldest university in the country or something.
Yeah.
And they looked down on these dirt farmers. So, Buck took it and went on and ran with it. And he bought a college called Trinity College, and then he turned it into Duke. He wanted to model it after the Ivy League. He built, the whole thing. If it's the whole story of the Duke coming from dirt.
Yeah.
To the reputation it has today is quite fascinating. It's an American success story with like I said, a few people got hurt along the way.
Yeah, that is cool.
But
okay,
that's why we did it. We made the website. Sorry, I digressed. We got the gear. We got the registered trademark. We own it, and we're not making any money on it. We're just having fun with it.
Yeah.
A lot of people bought stuff. It's been tough to sell. We had a really good we opened up January 5th with the Clemson game, the one that Zion did that 360 dunk.
Yeah.
That was when we opened the website. And then we had some major league sales, and then the Carolina game happened.
Yeah.
And blew out a shoe.
Yeah.
That's when I learned that this is an emotional brand. It's not one that people are not going, hey, that's something that I have to have. So nobody visited the website for 3 weeks after Zion got hurt. But it's an emotional brand. So and it's tough to sell in a pandemic of saying go to hell anything. So what we did earlier this year, we did a little campaign that instead of go to hell, Carolina, go to hell, it's go to hell, coronavirus, go to hell.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that works too. All right. So before I let you go, We end the podcast the same way every week. You got to win a game. Give me your all-time Duke starting five and a sixth man.
I'll take Art Heyman.
Okay.
Christian Laettner.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take Grant Hill.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take maybe a controversial thing here, but I'll take Jay Williams.
Okay.
Point guard.
Yeah.
I'll take, how many is that?
That's four.
That's four. What do I need? I'll take Shane Battier.
Okay.
And then the sixth man would be, oh man, who'd be the best sixth man besides me? Gene Banks.
Okay.
Gene Banks.
All right. So we got Art Heyman, Shane, Grant, Laettner. What was the other one? Jay Will.
And
Gene Banks off the bench. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's the first, that's definitely the first Art Heyman that I've gotten.
Yeah, most people don't remember that.
Yeah.
Don't remember. Art was one tough sumbitch. He was the original. I mean, the whole Carolina Duke rivalry started from the game that he and Larry Miller, not Larry Miller. It was the guy who coached Kansas, the guy who bounced around all over the place. He was a Carolina guy. But anyway, he got in a fight with, sorry, I'm blanking.
Larry Brown?
Larry Brown. Survey
Larry Brown.
says you win. You won. Yes. Him and Larry Brown got in a fight. It turned into a melee. Have you ever seen that video?
No.
You can go to my website. It's on there.
I've got to check out all kinds of stuff.
GTHC. There's a lot of history on there too. And there's a good video of my buddy Lewis Black, who's a Carolina diehard fan. He and I are buddies, and we have bets and rivalries all the time. But we have a message for all Duke and Carolina fans in the media section of that website. So
yeah,
everybody explore, have a good time.
Everybody get on GTHCGTH.com, check it out, buy a t-shirt. But all right, Kenny, that's all I have for you today, man. I appreciate you joining us, and hope you have a good one, man.
And I know everybody's a little disappointed I didn't name Zion, but I mean, sorry.
You gotta
have a number of games under your belt.
I hear you.
Not just because you got the talent. Sorry.
Yeah. All right, Kenny, man. Take it easy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.